Every culture and society has jobs that are the untouchable jobs. The low-paid jobs that people just naturally decided, and all agree, are the jobs that deserve low pay. In the 1700s, lacing was a complex task that took years to master, that doing it too much destroyed your eyesight. But at the beginning of the first industrial revolution, where they did things in factory settings, so many women had learned lacing that even though the skill was difficult, the market decided that they were all disposable and could pay them a fraction of what the real talent was worth. In India, this was the Dalits, people who were the untouchables, who cleaned up waste and worked with trash, and when a sacred cow died, they were the only ones allowed to touch or eat it. Forever cursed and still treated like lesser people to this day. In the US, it's food service and retail. Somewhere along the way, we decided that these jobs were transition jobs to higher education and for kids. This and waitressing, which was a woman's work, have been forever considered a transition job along with retail sales that no one should ever make a career out of. The public view is that these are jobs for people temporarily on hard times, who didn't get an education, or for teens to build their work experience on. Anytime I see a discussion on raising the minimum wage, people assert that these people shouldn't get paid a decent wage because low wages will incentivize them to go to college and make something of themselves. These are the unwashed burger flippers we can all look down on as either inexperienced kids or failures in life. We've decided this is the case and therefore so it must be. But seriously, what is so horrible about being a good burger flipper? What about that work makes them lesser people? Some people really like the work. 70% of fast food workers are over 20, 1/3 have some college, and the average age of a fast food worker is 29. I worked fast food in high school. It's a hard-ass job. You have to work your ass off. In fact, I've always found it weird that the higher in rank you are, the less actual work you have to do. Yeah, I use my brains in my current job, but I also did that as a fast food worker, keeping orders straight, anticipating the next order that will run out. That doesn't require a college degree, but neither do a lot of soft skills that are essential to all jobs. Someone will always have to do these jobs. Janitors and trash collectors used to be considered something you would tell your kids to study hard so you didn't have to become one. Now trash collectors make bank because the shortage of workers forced us to pay them more. Same with the skilled trades. Now you can make six figures in a skilled trades because everyone was convinced that college was the way into the middle class, and now they have to go back to fast food service after getting a college degree. People claim raising the minimum wage would make a burger flipper make the same as an EMT, which is unacceptable. No, there would suddenly be no incentive to become an EMT if they could just tell their boss who's underpaying them to stuff it, knowing they could survive as a burger flipper, and then the EMT wages would rise. The job market is saturated, but wages are incredibly sluggish to rise to meet demand. This is because the minimum wage hasn't raised because people believe these people who are now on food stamps working fast food don't deserve basic dignity to be able to afford all they need. Not want, but need. Working 40 hours a week in some pretty hard and crappy environments. Also, there's a serious shortage of good workers too. There's no incentive to stick with minimum wage service jobs or do a good job. I know of people personally who run a food service job. As owners, I'm sure pay more than minimum, but they can't find good people to work food service who aren't complete slackers now. The opioid epidemic hasn't helped either, as in rural regions, 20% of worker productivity has evaporated because of the opioid crisis that made the Sackler family billions. If we made food service an honorable job, you would have reliable people who dedicated their lives to giving you good service. When people say, it's not a hard job, it's usually by people who wouldn't survive a week at these jobs and rage quit by the indignities they face and just how demotivating it is to give a crap about doing a good job. In Denmark, they organize service work, and people working in fast food make the equivalent of $18 an hour, and you get excellent service. Retail is their scum job, but they can still survive to an extent on that salary. Manufacturing, the best low-skilled job to get into the middle class, is essentially gone due to automation. If you want to work there, you need a skilled trade 2-year degree at least and a journeyman apprentice as we move further and further into automation or electronic or robotic technician degrees. The service field is now the only place a person with just a diploma or GED can get into. Everything else requires a degree of some kind. But because we've treated it as a temporary field that only failures or dumb people went into, we had no reliable backup to survive in case we lost our jobs and no leverage to quit so that we and our field could get paid more. Therefore, unions that should have existed in the service industry never happened, and unions died, and wages stagnated ever since the end of the 70s. Not everyone is good at school. Some people have learning disabilities, but do a damn good job at fast food. We have a wide range of neurodivergence in this nation, and that's great because I sure don't want to be a waiter or mop floors or deal with angry customers telling me my job isn't that hard. We rely on them. As Tyler Durden put it, we cook your meals, we haul your trash, we connect your calls, we drive your ambulances, we guard you while you sleep. Do not fuck with us. The only reason we view service jobs as not a career is because we decided as a population they weren't. Teens, losers, immigrants, and dumb people. The lowest scum. But in the process, we lost sight that not only does all work deserve dignity, and anyone working 40 hours per week deserves enough to at least survive on, but since there are no survivable fallback jobs, there's no incentive to raise your pay, and your wages are stuck. And you get pretty crappy service as well, because they disdain your class just as much as you disdain theirs. On top of that, they get no sick leave, so you are almost definitely at some point going to get unnecessarily sick because they can't go home and they can't survive if they don't come into work. All labor is honorable regardless, if you're a CEO or the person making food, cleaning toilets, and if a company can't afford to employ people with pay that people can survive on without getting on food stamps, that means the company is exploiting welfare, and they don't deserve to exist. So thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. I'm sure there was nothing controversial about this, and everyone will happily get along in the comments section, which you can do on the YouTube version of this video, link in the show notes. Just a reminder that I'm Anubis 2814 on YouTube, and I have over 500 videos on different topics that I've made over the past 10 years. Please subscribe, and if your podcast site has the option, give me a like or review. If you think what I have to say informed you, consider supporting my Patreon. I'll be doing this podcast weekly and try to get it out on the same day, so I hope to see you here next week, ready to be filled with new ideas. Take care. A big thank you goes out to Elias Garcia Guevara and Joe Taylor, who sponsor the show at $10 a month at the Wapawet level on Patreon. Please consider donating as well if you can, and thank you all for listening.